Well, it's a long story, which I will try to keep short. So I started with Caltrans in 1991, right out of college. And one of the things that attracted me to Caltrans was the rotation program. I grew up on the East Coast, and making the move to California was a big chance that I took. But I knew there was tremendous opportunity, and I chose to go into construction early on in my career and shifted back over to the design side for several decades. And more recently, I had an opportunity to move from being a design deputy to a construction deputy. So while I've been in the industry for 30 years, I feel that I'm still a newbie when it comes to construction, particularly at this level. So that's kind of how I ended up here. Definitely loving every minute of it. I think we're going to talk a little bit about partnering, but that was one of the things that was at the top of my list when I started this position. I had limited exposure to partnering. I had participated in partnering meetings off and on throughout my career when I was on the design side, but I always felt that it was key to successful projects. And early on, I made an effort to participate in partnering meetings, just to let my staff know that it was a priority, that I thought it was worth the time and effort. But I also wanted to know who was on the other side of the table. Coming into this industry new at this level, I had a lot of ground to make up, and meeting the people that were actually doing the construction was really important to me, and that's kind of been one of my hot topics, I'll say, while I've been in this position. I think one of the things that partnering brings is it's not just meeting the people, but it's really making a connection. Our Caltrans director, Tok Somashakan, talks about the importance of communication, but also how to make a connection and why it's important to make a connection. So that's really where I've tried to put my emphasis. And I think Caltrans, as an organization, we've been partnering for close to 30 years. And I think where we're transitioning is really developing partnerships. And that's really been my goal. And when you have a connection with someone, you can put a face to a name. It goes a little bit beyond just meeting the person, because there are going to be issues that come up, right? Not all problems can be solved at the lowest level. So when those issues do get elevated and you've made a connection with that person on the other side of the table, I think you can really resolve issues more effectively because you know them at a different level. And that's been really key, I think, to my experience in construction. Actually, I've attended several virtual partnering meetings. I know initially there was a lot of apprehension, a lot of why partnering is successful is because it's the face-to-face. It's breaking bread over coffee or lunch. So going completely virtual, I think, was difficult at first, but I have attended several virtual partnering meetings, and I think they've been very successful, primarily because we've been able to expand the number of stakeholders that are able to attend, right? So projects, particularly in our district, which is so large, asking a designer or a biologist to set aside half a day to drive to a location to attend a partnering meeting, where now it's a click of a button, they're virtually in the meeting, And as soon as it's over, they can go back to what they're doing. So it's been a tremendous opportunity to expand, I think, the partnering concept and include a lot more stakeholders. I think we're all anxious to get back to face-to-face, but I think there is a hybrid or a combination of virtual and face-to-face that we'll be utilizing going forward as a permanent part of partnering. Before we look at the opportunities, I think we really need to reflect back upon 2020 and all of the challenges and hardships that we went through, and how did we overcome those challenges? Things that were impossible in January of 2020 suddenly became possible in March and April. So I think, we need to look at why that happened and really double down on those opportunities and breaking down those barriers. I think technology is a huge opportunity. It was key to getting us through this pandemic and continues to be key. And not necessarily new technology, but a lot of ideas like drones and LiDAR and automated machine guidance, things that were on the horizon, but now they're right in front of us. And I think we've been able to make tremendous strides in spite of the pandemic, and looking at how that happened and why that happened, and using those lessons learned to continue the momentum and make those impossible things possible going forward. I think in some ways I have a unique perspective, being on the design side for decades. I think there are stereotypes and stigmas that go along with the construction industry. I mentioned early on about the Caltrans rotation program, right? So all of our new civil engineers are required to work a year in construction, but keeping them, bringing them back to this industry is challenging because of the stereotypes and the stigmas. And I think our industry, and there are great organizations like California AGC in their Build California campaign that are doing tremendous things to try to get the word out and educate young people, people of color, women, that it's not just a job. It can actually be a really good career, a well-paid career, and that you can enter this industry at any level. So with that being said, once we get those people into this industry, they become aware of on-the-job training and apprenticeship programs. How do we keep those people, right? So we need to create a culture that's welcoming, that's supportive. Speaking from personal experience, being the only woman in a meeting, being the only person of color on a job site can be very intimidating. So we need to help those individuals get past that and support them and let them know that they can make a career in our industry. But a lot of that is going to involve outreach, right? We need to create internship programs. We need to create entry-level jobs. We need to allow employees to go to their kids' classrooms, to participate in career days, right? We need to get kids excited about being in construction. It shouldn't be any different than saying, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a doctor. Saying that you want to be a construction worker, I want to work in construction, should be just as valuable as any other career choice. So I think it's going to take a lot of work. Like I said, I believe there are a lot of foundations, industry groups that are doing tremendous things. And it's something that we just need to continue to work on, because the need for skilled workers, the opportunity, we know the benefit to the economy, we know the potential for funding when it comes to infrastructure. It really is something that I know my peers are passionate about. I know the industry is passionate about, and it's something that we just need to work on every day, and every opportunity that we need to get, we need to be sending that message. Yeah, and I think it goes back to creating that culture. Being flexible, recognizing that, women are typically the primary caregivers. We all know what the pandemic has done to women in the workforce. And I think we need to acknowledge that and make allowances for that. And I think there are also little things, something as simple as PPE, right? Finding safety vests, hard hats that are designed and made for women are little things that I think the industry is starting to do. Companies like Skanska and others that are really reaching out to women, creating groups within their companies to provide that support. And I think, Women's History Month, Women in Construction Week, I think are bigger now than ever. And, a lot of it is just education and letting people know that, there are jobs from heavy equipment operators to surveyors, accountants, all facets of our industry. It goes back to those stereotypes of what people think construction workers should be. And those of us that are working in the industry know that that is not the case. So I think creating that culture, being more visible, using social media, platforms like this, and opportunities that I've been given to get the word out, I think are just little things that we are obligated to do if we want to make a difference. So, as an engineer, I went into engineering because I like the technical side. I like math and science. I like problem solving. And as part of most engineering curriculums, you've got to take technical writing, you have to take public speaking, and it's just those things that you need to check off your list. But what I realize now that I didn't know then is how important communication is, right? Being able to express yourself in writing, being able to present an idea, being able to connect with those people across the table, I think was really key to my career development, and not something I wanted to do or recognized was an essential part of being successful in any industry, really. I consider myself an introvert. So those skills early on were definitely not on my radar and not things that I wanted to do. But through experience, through practice, mentors putting you into situations where you had to do those things that were uncomfortable. That's probably the biggest thing that I wish I had recognized and valued early on, because I think it would have made my life a lot easier. And definitely, in school, I had no idea that I probably should have put more emphasis and importance to really trying to excel in those areas, because the focus was definitely on the technical side of things, and that was really just a background for learning and a background for what you're going to learn on the job. So I would say communication is definitely something that I did not recognize early on, and I would definitely tell myself back then it's something I should have focused on and put more emphasis on. And it's something that I do tell my mentees, students that I have an opportunity to speak to, is You could be the greatest engineer, problem solver, technical person in the world, but if you can't communicate your ideas effectively, then it's going to be difficult to really share those ideas and take advantage of all of those opportunities. So definitely communication. I've actually had this discussion with a couple of people, because I am getting towards the end of my career, after 30 years. And I think it's very fundamental. When I leave this position and leave Caltrans, if I can say that I made a difference, then, I have been successful. So I know early on in my career, I've been asked that question many times in different positions, and it always comes back to making a difference. I know that anyone can do this job when I'm gone, and previous positions that I've held. But if someone can look back and say, Christy really made a difference, whether it was in construction or design or on a specific project or solving an issue, that's really the measure of my success.